Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Joanna Massey-Levikas, and I'm the Director of Education at the North Carolina Botanical Garden. On behalf of all of us at the Garden, I'd like to welcome you to the 2020 Jenny Elder Fitch Memorial Lecture featuring Ira Wallace, who'll speak on heirloom seeds, saving stories, and preserving biodiversity. Since the focus of this talk is vegetables, I'd like to take just a moment to make sure you're aware of the North Carolina Botanical Gardens Community Garden programs, the Carolina Community Garden, and Edible Campus UNC. Please find out more about these programs via the links after the presentation. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our other moderators for the program. You'll see them shortly. Lauren Green is our Youth and Environmental Education Specialist, and she also provides interim public program support. David Michaud is our interim registrar, and the three of us are available to you in the chat for any technical issues that might arise for you during the program. Lauren and David will also be moderating Q&A at the conclusion of the presentation. If you have any questions for Ms. Wallace during the lecture, please use the Q&A tool rather than the chat. We'll moderate all questions for Ms. Wallace at the end of her presentation. And thank you to early registrants who sent in questions ahead of time. We'll ask those questions too during the Q&A. Now, Stephen Keith, our Director of Development at the North Carolina Botanical Garden, will take just a brief moment to share the history of this lecture series. Stephen, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you, Joanna. Hello, welcome to the 2020 Jenny Elder Fitch Memorial Lecture. My name is Stephen Keith, and I serve as the Director of Development here for the North Carolina Botanical Garden. Today is a glorious day in Chapel Hill. We did have some rain this morning, but the sun is out, and I wish we could all be together in person to enjoy the native North Carolina fall wildflowers in bloom, along with the brilliant fall color of the native trees and shrubs. And if you have not toured the sculpture show exhibit yet, please come see this outstanding collection before the exhibit closes on December 6th. Before Joanna introduces you to our speaker, I would like to give you a little history about the Fitch Lecture. As many of you are aware, this lecture is named in honor of Jenny Elder Fitch, a local plant enthusiast and passionate gardener, and also known for the dynamic gardens she designed and maintained at Farrington Village. Miss Fitch passed away in 1995, and in 1997, an endowment was created by her friends, family, and husband, R.B. Fitch, who is a former president of the North Carolina Botanical Garden Foundation. They started this lecture to honor and remember Jenny by providing a free public lecture each fall about gardening, horticulture, wildflowers, or any other topic related to the mission of the North Carolina Botanical Garden. Now, the first Fitch lecture was given in 1999 by Rosemary Veary, an internationally known English garden designer. The lecture filled up quickly, and after the RSVP list hit 200, Dot Wilbur Brooks had to find a larger campus venue. Eventually, over 400 people attended this inaugural Fitch lecture in person in the UNC Memorial Hall. Afterwards, the garden hosted Rosemary and the lecture attendees in the Coker Arboretum for tea and crumpets, garden walks, and a book signing on a beautiful day, very similar to today. Fast forward 21 years later to 2020, and now we are hosting our very first virtual Fitch lecture. I know you will enjoy this program, and it's wonderful to have so many of you join us virtually from all over the state of North Carolina and beyond. Joanna, back to you for the introduction of Ira Wallace.
Thanks so much, Stephen. With so many quarantined in their homes, this year has inspired renewed interest in gardening, akin to the Victory Gardens of World War II. Gardeners are interested in growing organic and sustainable gardens, food and flowers, all evidenced by shortages of seeds and vegetable starts, as well as a banner year with our North Carolina Botanical Garden plant sale that was offered in a new socially distanced format this fall. Today, we're so excited to hear from Ira Wallace. Ira is an author, a storyteller, and a worker owner of the cooperatively managed Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, which offers over 700 varieties of open pollinated, heirloom, and organic seeds selected for flavor and regional adaptability. In fact, she's been described as, and I quote, the essential intellectual and physical energy behind Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. Ira also serves on the boards of the Organic Seed Alliance and the Virginia Association for Biological Farming. She's a member of a Virginia-based intentional community, which farms over 60 acres of certified organic land in Central Virginia. Ira is an organizer of the Heritage Harvest Festival at Monticello, a fun, family-friendly event featuring an old-time seed swap, local food, hands-on workshops and demos, and so much more. In 2016, the Southern Foodways Alliance honored Ira with the Craig Claiborne Lifetime Achievement Award for her work with Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, and for, I quote, catalyzing national dialogues about democratizing seed supply and ensuring a living wage for farmers. In 2019, Ira was awarded the American Horticultural Society's Paul Eck Jr. Commercial Award, which is one of the AHS's Great American Gardeners Awards that celebrate the best in American gardening. She's also a recipient of the Kozeny Communitarian Award from the Fellowship for Intentional Community and the Organic Growers School Organic Educator of the Year Award. And I learned when I reached out to Ira about speaking for this annual event that she volunteered with the North Carolina Botanical Garden in the past, assisting with school tours, plant rescues, and the herb garden. Ira writes about heirloom vegetables and seed saving for magazines and blogs, including Mother Earth News, Fine Gardening, and Southern Exposure. She's author of the Timber Press Guide to Vegetable Gardening in the Southeast, and a whole new state-specific book series that includes Grow Great Vegetables in North Carolina. These two books will be available through our Gardens shop, which will reopen soon, and we'll be launching an online store starting on November 5th. So the first 30 of each book we sell will be signed by Ira via a book plate she has graciously provided to us. Though we regret we couldn't bring her here in person, we are grateful for this opportunity to reconnect Ira with the garden and connect with an audience that spans across the United States today. Ira, thank you so much for being with us today. And now I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, I am so glad to be here with y'all. There I am. This being invited to speak here was such a surprise because my seed saving days may have begun in earnest at the North Carolina Botanical Garden. And to be called back to share again is something very special. Yeah, there we are. Today, we're going to just talk a little bit about seed saving, seed savers, the varieties that they've saved. But I'm also going to share with you a little bit about people who are a part of this picture who have been erased from it in a lot of things. And I really particularly bring you pictures just of sharecroppers and of Black folks in the South who helped to go from the past, the new American cuisine that Jefferson brought was enacted in day-to-dayness by these people of color, who the Native people also, and also in history looking at the Extension Service and these kinds of things. And our history just took those pieces away. I thought I would give you a picture of my grandmother, but I have not one because she died the year I went to college. and our family home was destroyed after that, and there's not a picture that is left. But these people are like my people. And there's me, back in the day, about the time I was being a volunteer at the botanical gardens. We were homesteading, fueled by the same fires that were making people come and volunteer at the garden. We were trying to live simply so that others might simply be able to live. Could that be at the gardens? I think it is. And there were so many volunteers, older volunteers, younger volunteers, taking it upon themselves to build a place where native plants could flourish, where children could learn. And I was really happy to be a part of that. I wish I had taken pictures, but being a little plump lady, that's why I didn't take pictures. And here we are now. Southern Exposure is a co-op, and it has people of all ages and races working together to bring the seeds that we have to you. Here we are at one of our cooperating farms, and I picked Browntown Farms because they are growing on some of what you call heirs property, which has been the biggest way that land has been lost to African-American farmers. Lots of people die without a will, and all their heirs have to agree in order for that to stay, that land to stay in the family. And if one of them requires a sale, the way the laws are, they lose them. And these Browntown Farm people, they have taken and made a whole community that carries on gardening and seed-saving traditions. And here's another group of young people. They're actually in Philadelphia, and you have young immigrants, African-American people, other people who have been kind of marginalized and pushed away from farming, who've decided to share in their communities seed saving and healthy food. So, and a lot of that is done with heirloom seeds. These are non-hybrid, they're open pollinated seeds, seeds that what you plant is essentially what you get. And those varieties, we specialize at Southern Exposure with something called family heirlooms, which are a special subgroup of these heirlooms that have been passed down for several generations in a family. And many of them are rare and not commonly available. Like the moon and stars, they look like they have some kind of virus, but what they have is exceptional flavor inside. Last in my kind of bringing up some of the politics behind why we at Southern Exposure are committed to open pollinated seeds, to providing education about seed saving to our customers and to people in communities that are cut off a little bit from the tradition of gardening. It's because in this country, primarily 3 big multinational companies that also are petrochemical and pesticide purveyors control over 60% of the vegetable garden seed, and more of it is being controlled that way. And we think that it's really important for gardeners like you to take it upon themselves to make an everyday act of freedom, of resistance to control of your food system by a simple thing like planting and saving seeds. When I first got involved with Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, one of the early things that we did is working with the Cherokee Center for Plants on their reservation in a project that they had of bringing back some of the traditional varieties that had been lost in efforts to modernize farming there. And one of the ones that we were shepherding at is the Cherokee White Eagle Dent corn. And we got involved in a project that grew 1/4 of an acre, which was enough seed to have everyone who was in the Cherokee reservation who was interested be able to grow and make this traditional dent corn available again. And the saying is, if you look hard enough that you can see a white eagle in that corn. And what you can see inside is when it's ground is a beautiful white dent corn with little black flecks from the dark outer coating. Here are a few of the special seeds that we grow. And I'll tell you, I guess with each picture, I'll tell you a story, because they kind of point out what you can do just by having your family adopt and save the seeds for one variety. I'll save Radiator Charlie's for a minute later. But Schruntz is, the Artie Schruntz family has carried on a seed saving tradition, and they grow a lot of different things. But one of the ones that I really like that they have worked with is the deep black peanuts. Before we got these from the Schrontzes, mostly we had a Carolina black, and the story that goes with along with the black peanuts and how they were saved, even though they're not widely distributed by the trade, was that it reminded enslaved people of black bambara that they had left behind in Africa. And so these peanuts were grown in their own gardens and kept also by the Maroons along the coast of the Carolinas. And that little red peanut is another one. It has a long line of like 4 or 5 little red peanuts that are not so common in the areas, you know, of the Carolinas, because people chose the bigger Virginia style peanuts. And then there's okra. I'll save that okra to tell you about a little bit later. But mortgage lifter is, you can see Radiator Charlie down here, and they called him, that's MC Biles, they called him Radiator Charlie because during the 30s and 40s he ran a radiator shop at the bottom of a hill in West Virginia. And he was also an amateur plant breeder. He took 4 of the best beefsteak type tomatoes he could get his hands on, and he bred what we know as mortgage lifter nowadays by hand pollinating over many years his big, as he said, the big tomatoes, the mortgage lifters. And they call them mortgage lifters because after he got the tomato that he wanted, he would grow plants and sell them to people in his area, but also those people from further afield who somehow find themselves in his radiator shop when their car overheated in those days. And he sold those tomato plants for $1 each. $1 each is kind of a lot for just a single small tomato plant in these times, but in the 1940s, it was big bucks. And in 6 years, he paid off the mortgage on his house with the money from those tomatoes. And they are big and pink and juicy. And if you haven't ever had one, they can get up to 2 pounds. So that's one of the ones. Another tomato, well, this is a great tomato story. Cherokee Purple is kind of the poster child for ugly tomatoes taste good. And this one came to Southern Exposure from a North Carolina plant person, the North Carolina tomato man, Craig LaHourier, who wrote Epic Tomatoes, if you want to get more tomato stories than you can imagine. And when he sent the seeds to Southern Exposure and our founder, Jeff McCormick, he said, "This tomato has amazing flavor, even if it looks like a bruised arm. You have to introduce it for the adventurous gardener." Well, indeed we did, carrying that funny little story forward into the first catalog where it's offered, and daring the adventurous gardener to try it and see if they liked it. Well, a whole lot did, and now the story of Cherokee Purple is a history of more varieties, more looks, more taste in tomatoes. Oh, here's Mr. and Mrs. Schrontz, who we mentioned with their little peanuts. And there is one of the cucumbers that they were picking. These white cucumbers used to be very popular as a pickling cucumber, actually in the mostly in the mountainous areas of the Carolinas and Virginia. And they kind of fallen out of favor, but they're still small, thin-skinned, and quite delicious pickled. Here are a few books that are out there that are full of the stories of their epic tomatoes, and Craig LaHourier wrote that. The Saving Seeds, Preserving Taste comes from Bill Best, who is well known for the Appalachian Heirloom Seed Conservancy and Sustainable Mountain Seed Sanctuary. They mostly specialize in beans, and we'll look at a couple of his beans. And the Seed Savers Exchange, everyone knows about, and the Seed Garden. And down below is one of Southern Exposure's seed growers, Cliff Slade. He hadn't written a book yet, but he's done an amazing amount of work with taking heirloom seeds and bringing it to limited resource farmers and helping them to be able to make $1 per square foot out of their farmland. Okay. Here, these 4 varieties of tomatoes are all a part of the Dwarf Tomato Project that Craig LaHourier and some 300 volunteers all over the world actually have worked on developing these varieties that were heirlooms of the future, perhaps, crossing a genetic dwarf that would make smaller plants under 4 feet. So as Craig says, when we were all unable to deal with trellising and getting heirloom tomatoes off of our 8-foot plants, these dwarves will be there. And I'll tell you, like, the Arctic Rose was selected out of original crosses from this citizen science project. And the dwarf yellow ones, small ones, they are all varieties that have one dwarf parent and one very tasty heirloom one. And this is something for people who want to try to move on to. Another thing that we've been working on is collards. Now, collards, they don't get the respect that they need because this is a vegetable, one of the few brassicas that were actually developed here in the Southeast, because actually it was brought from England and called bourcole, and was often considered some famine food or food for animals. But in the Southeast, it was selected, and it has gotten to be what we know as collards, a variety of vegetables that are high in vitamins, very able to grow greens in the heat and in the cold. Generally speaking, you get good collards for 10 months of the year, but there is so much variety in the collard family. And how we learned about this was from those two authors, Ed Davis and John Morgan. They worked also with the USDA plant breeder and collected over 90 different varieties or accessions of heirloom collards. And this pictures give you a little bit of the variety that was there. And how they got it is they got a USDA cultural geography grant, and they went out every winter for several years in the 90s and collected seeds. First, they put out notices in those little magazines that they would come out from the Extension Service, but are now mostly online listings. And one of the things that they found out that in addition to the vast variety, we're talking about shiny collards, dark green ones, purple ones, blue ones, so many different kinds, is that the seed savers themselves were getting a little bit limited, and most of them were older. The collard shack here is in Ayden, North Carolina, and here they grow both the yellow cabbage collards, which is a traditional Carolina variety, and it's special because people use it to make collard kraut, which really, except for in the Carolinas, is almost unknown, except now that there's this new interest in fermented food, more people are making, krauts out of different brassicas than just cabbages. And then next to it is henpecked. And the henpecked and yellow cabbage collards at the collard shack that we just saw, where they sell plants, they say henpecked is mixed in with the cabbage collards. And so 1 in 10 of the plants will be this little frizzy edge ones. And in their many years of selling them, they haven't been able to separate them completely. More different ones. And the purple ones I pointed out in particular because they mostly were grown like in Alabama and Mississippi and southern Georgia, and not so much in other parts of the country. But we took them and grew them at our Virginia farm, and they do exceptionally well there also. So if you want to get your anthocyanins from collards, purple collards are waiting for your future. Here's Cecil Stroud, and he kind of brings up one of the things about the donors of all these collard varieties. What they had in common, they were men and women, black, white, is that they were old. The average age was 66 of the donors, and many of them did not have people in their family who were prepared to carry on saving the collard seed that that particular grower had been growing, sometimes them for over 30 years. Sometimes it would be second or third generation growing that variety. So we started, here's another thing that you can see is, in addition to the more obvious differences in the way the leaves are, the shape and stuff, there are other characteristics like how early the collards bloom. Or this one, instead of having the traditional yellow flower, has a white flower. We think that this might be a good variety to save seed from further south, like in Florida, where you have problems with having enough cool days to initiate flowering, except once every 3 or 4 years. Yeah, so because we saw all of these really fabulous collard varieties that needed new stewards, Southern Exposure joined together with So True Seeds in North Carolina and the Seed Savers Exchange and started this Heirloom Seed project. And we set up a little website and started looking for new families to adopt and maintain some of the varieties that John Morgan and Ed Davis had deposited in the USDA. And I think this has worked out pretty well because we now have gotten some people to grow some of these varieties, to regenerate seeds to put into the USDA seed bank, to share with the Seed Savers Exchange. And Lorraine Mortiz and Elmer Kesey are holding us off because this is the first one of these heirloom collards that have been sent to the gene bank in Svalbard and to join all of the different varieties from around the world that are being maintained in case of any kind of global emergency. Mostly they have this kind of thing happens in the developing world, but you never can tell here. And the other thing that this unlikely group of seed savers did is to take some of the seed that they have and share it among many, many gardeners in the Winston-Salem area where the William Alexander heading had been originally grown by an African-American seed saver, and to make it something that is once again a commonly grown vegetable in their community. Tasty, nutritious, delicious, maintaining a little bit of seed sovereignty. And I never would have thought sorority ladies were going to be the first ones to come up to the call. But, hey. Here's another in the sort of working with seed saving, that some things are saved from roots, are tubers. And here we've got some ginger and turmeric. And our grower, Ann Codrington, grew up and didn't exactly think she was going to be a farmer, but she went into the Peace Corps and got hooked on farming. And although she maintained a career, she also started a farm in Phoenix, Virginia, and they specialize in more Caribbean varieties. They grow 3 kinds of turmeric, 2 kinds of ginger, lemongrass, and offer them as plants to spread it around. And it's a special thing for Anne because when she was dealing with recovery from breast cancer, the teas that she believes that the teas that she made from these fresh roots help her to tolerate and survive those treatments. Here we are in the mountains south. I was here with a group of students at Berea College, and they're kind of special seed savers because Berea College students all do work at the college. And one of the things that this group of students do is save seeds to be used both in the campus gardens, but also to sell to Southern Exposure. And they, Bill Bess, who I mentioned with his Kentucky Heirloom Seed books, used to be a professor there, and his Sustainable Mountain Sanctuary is really near the college, and he has provided a lot of mentoring to the staff and to the students. He's among some of his beans, and one of the things that's special about a lot of the beans that he grows are their Greasy beans, and they're special because they don't have very many hairs on the beans, so they're kind of shiny. These are dried up. They also have really big beans so that you can take and dry them while the bean is still succulent, and then have both your vegetable and your bean to eat. They made what they call leather breeches from them. Here's some of the beans. You can see how shiny they are, and you can dry them, have the seeds, or take them at that stage, string them up, and use them for both a source of proteins and vitamins in the winter. Here is Roger Wynn, and he's another seed saver. He's from Little Mountain, South Carolina, and he's one of the seed savers who comes from a long line of seed savers. Here he's in his mixed brassica patch for the winter. And he also organizes a tomato tasting at his farm every summer. This is one of the things that when I first knew him, I didn't realize that he came from such a long line of seed savers. This is called Selma Zester beans. And his wife, well, his wife's great uncle sold seeds of Selma Zester to the Park Seed Company when he was a young farmer. And okay, here's another thing in the bean. We call these southern peas. Often they're called black-eyed peas. This is a pink-eye purple hull. And really, this is one of the foods that during and after the Civil War fed Southerners, both black and white, in those really troubled times. And I think in these current troubled times that those traditional vegetables like collards and black-eyed peas that have high nutrition and are easy to grow can be a part of people who are trying to have more food independence, gaining that on very small areas. And this is another one of our farmers who specializes in growing African heritage vegetables. And there's another farmer, Dr. Bradshaw, who's retired. He is a member of the Cherokee Nation. And one of the things he said about seed saving is he grew up with seed saving in a common sense way. He went to college to learn some science. When he put the two together, he decided that it was very important to maintain the genetic diversity that exists in heirloom varieties. And one of the things that he developed for fun was a gourd that you could make a purple martin condominium with. And this is one of his gourds before it's dried. He also gave us many bean varieties and maintained an heirloom vegetable variety at Clemson in South Carolina for many years. This is a kind of a picture of the range of our gardeners who grow seeds for southern exposure and who are emerging to be make independent little seed companies all throughout the country. It's a little bit, the wave is going from the West Coast, where a lot of commercial seed growing is, all the way back across into the Southeast. And the young man among the sunflowers, I think might have been the youngest seed grower professional seed grower I ever met. His father grows seeds for southern exposure in their homestead and homeschooled children. And when all of the children in that family took on growing a seed crop, the same way a lot of 4-Hers will take on growing a pig or chickens or something. And his older brother also made equipment that you could use for seed saving. And he got into MIT based on the designs that he submitted for the seed saving equipment he had made on their family farm. Not too bad for seed savers on a small farm up in the mountains. And one of the amazing things is the little Moyer boy would call and say, "Can I speak to Miss Ira? I have an issue. I need some help." And I just would crack up because his dad could have told him, but he said, "Well, you need to learn from the older seed savers, as well as your papa." Oops, what did I just do? Here is little Cliff, who now in the picture that you saw below was Big Cliff, growing all kinds of vegetables for us. And I put this here because that family is the most generation African-American farming family that I have met. There's here is just Cliff and his father, but now his grandfather and the young girl and her daughter makes 5 generations growing seeds. They specialize in sweet potatoes. They offer 12 varieties, both for cooking and as sweet potato slips. And if you want to get some great Eastern Shore sweet potatoes, Cliff's Lee's your man. So here we've talked a good deal about, some of the varieties of seeds. And what can you do to maintain them? Well, the first thing is sage seeds. And adopt a variety like this Dean's purple pole bean. When I first came upon it, I was visiting a farmer that I know down in Southwest Virginia, and named Mark Schoenbeck. And he said, oh, my beans are so bad, the bugs have got them. And we're walking along, and just over in the corner, there's this beautiful patch of green and purple. And it was this bean that you're looking at here, the Dean's purple pole bean. And it was amazing. You know, I know that generally speaking, purple pole beans sometimes are ignored when the greener varieties are attacked by bean beetles, but this one was particularly good. And inside, so easy to see, were all these nice, big, plump, juicy purple pole beans, easy to see among the foliage. And I said, where'd you get that one from? And he said, well, I got it from a guy named Dean Turley, who used to be, you know, a school teacher, and he got it from one of his students whose family had brought it to the area of North Carolina where they're living some 50 years ago. So it's been grown in that area for a good 100 years. And you might want to try some of Dean's purple pole beans. And I kind of wanted to say, like, these mountain beans, why they were so important in times when people depended on their gardens to give them sustenance, when they live with not so much cash. The proteins that you could grow with not the most fertile of land were really important a part of the farming system. And so things like, you know, all manner of pole beans, having beans that ripen at different times of year. So no matter what the weather was, you might have, you know, bush beans early in the season. You might have early pole beans. You might have October beans or greasy beans that tend to be a little bit daylight sensitive, so that they're more likely to ripen in late September through October, so that you could have fresh, high protein beans available for the table for as long as possible. And ones, like I said, that you could make leather breeches out of and dry, you know, in addition to canning beans to carry you into the winter. So we think it's really, I think it's really important, well, to grow heirloom seeds, but also to grow open pollinated seeds that have been bred more recently, because with those varieties, you gain independence. I was just reading about, you know, a farmer who depended on one of Annie Oakley, one of these very good hybrid varieties of okra. And you would think, you know, okra, you wouldn't be such a thing. But the company that had the intellectual property rights for Annie Oakley decided they didn't want to grow it. And so this farmer who had been growing this hybrid for all these years suddenly had to find another variety. Whereas if you pick a good open pollinated variety and select the best plants each year from that, you are in a position to grow your own variety, find something that adjusts well to your own soils, and you are not held captive to whether that variety is making a lot of money all across the whole country for some big company. Here are a few of the resources that we find most useful for seed saving. Seed to Seed by Suzanne Ashworth is the first book that I really took seriously about vegetable seed saving. And The Seed Garden is a more recent book that came out from the Seed Savers Exchange, more geared toward smaller gardens, whereas Seed to Seed geared toward a larger garden that was more likely to be grown, 30 years ago. Both of them have really good information. But it really, if you're comfortable with the internet is your friend in seed saving. There are more YouTube videos about seed saving than you can shake a stick at. And we have a lot of, there are a lot of online, things that you can download as a PDF, including the Saving Our Seed Guides with Southern Exposure, along with 9 other Southeastern organizations, worked together with the Carolina Farm Steward Organization, I guess, been well over 12 years now, and made 30-page things about 9 different families of vegetables, also about isolation distances, seed storage, lots of things for gardeners in the Southeast who want to save vegetable seeds. And the information is also good for urban flower seeds, just not so specific. And while we were talking about, I showed you some books that were about stories about farming and varieties, and they didn't have any, they were mostly by white people because most of the wave of seed savers has been there. But there's a new wave coming of Black and brown farmers and seed savers. And if you're interested in that, you might want to read Farming While Black. One of the things I really love about Leah Penniman is how uplifting her writing is. And she has in each of these sections that offer practical advice about gardening, but it also writes back Black people and where their origins of some of these practices in Africa, or actually by enslaved people and by free Black people in other parts of the world. And it just, you get really excited. And The Cooking Gene is from Michael Twitty, who is going to actually be a speaker at the Collard Week event online that we're going to have in December. A number of organizations, including North Carolina's Utopian Seed Project, are gathering together with the Culinary Breeding Network, and as a part of their Winter Vegetable Sagra series this year, collards are going to be there. And Michael Twitty is going to be our first speaker, talking about the history of collards in the South, and giving us a little cooking advice. He worked a lot with, historical varieties and cooking using historical recipes and traditions. And he just is a fireball, both. And another, I don't know, I think it's what happened, with both the COVID virus coming along at a time when world events were making you re-examine the role of Black people it just makes me think, well, when I have these audiences of people who, you know, are interested in food and in justice and in you know, preserving our genetic diversity, that they also give them a little bit of the work to preserve equity in the food system along racial lines too. Because I find when we're in person that I meet fabulous people like those that I met years ago at the botanical gardens, who were willing, who were accepting and encouraging of a young Black woman. And I sort of think I'll give some tools to y'all in case you are in a position to do that at this time. Oh, here we are at the end. As they said, the Botanical Gardens online bookstore will be open in just a few days. And if you want to grow great vegetables in North Carolina, or one of the other 4 states I've written books for, or you're a gardener in the Southeast, that's another thing that you may do. Or you can get a free catalog from Southern Exposure. And I think I've come to the end of this. But, you know, some of you put some questions. Maybe we'll go back up. I'm going to leave these seed-saving resources up for you. I've come to the end, and I'm ready to talk about some questions. And Lauren is so fabulous as to be checking the chat box and giving me those questions.
Thank you for such a lovely talk, Ira. We've got some questions all ready for you. If anybody else has any questions for Ira, please put them in the Q&A. We've got a few questions that people sent in early. Our first question for you today, Ira, is, I am new to seed saving, and sometimes it is hard to distinguish the actual seed before you know what you're looking for. Any advice for us newbies?
Yes, indeed. The first thing is when you are planting something and you want to save seeds and you're unfamiliar, well, actually, even if you are familiar, I put a sample and I save it for myself by putting it between clear tape and with a nice little label on it of what it was. And this helps you not only when you're just trying to clean them and figure out what in the world is this. This is particularly true of flowers. What's the fluff and what's the seed here? That's really good. I would also recommend online resources. There are probably 24 Pinterest seed charts that are just pictures of seeds labeled. And so you can kind of look at it and see what it's supposed to be that you're saving. Yeah.
Great. And Ira did send me an email list of resources that we'll pass on to you after the talk. We'll send out an email with all those great links that you sent us.
Yes.
So our next question says, hi, Ira. I love the calendar-based layout for garden task in your book. As climate change increases erratic weather patterns with heat waves in November and freezes in April, what are your top tips for adapting? Also, well, I'll answer that and then I'll give you her second question.
Okay. Well, the things that will help you adapt to almost any conditions are to plant several varieties of a vegetable that you have. Sometimes what people do to get that. And one thing is to get a land race. That is an older variety that has not been selected down. So there's ones that get ready. Violet's multicolored beans is an example. These are lima bean, and I've always told you got to save one of each color in order to get the best thing. And this is, I think, a traditional way of saving the genetic diversity in the variety. Some years you get a lot more of one variety of one of the colors or speckled type beans. Some years you get more of the other. But what you find is some are early and some are late in that kind of variety. Some are drought tolerant. Some do better when it's a little too wet. So working with those kind of varieties helps. The other is succession planting. During the whole, to make several plantings during the whole season when you could grow that. And that way all of your crop isn't in one vulnerable state when you have a bad weather event. So as they say, keep planting, keep harvesting, you will keep eating.
Great, thank you. And she also asked if you consider the North Carolina Piedmont part of the Upper South.
Sort of. The dividing line is, as I think of it, is along the Piedmont of North Carolina. And so when you get to the area that's more to the east and the south of the Piedmont, you're more likely to go with the planting date suggested for lower south. But it's not warm enough to have the full range of what I recommend for lower south. So I'd say go with the upper south, but take a few more risks than you would otherwise.
Great, thank you. All right, our next question is, what is a good way to start a seed library using heritage seeds from my community?
Well, starting a seed library is both a simple and easy thing and complicated. If you want seeds from your community, that means more, a lot of people start seed libraries just by asking for donations from seed companies. Well, that doesn't give you the varieties that have been traditionally grown in your area. Seed libraries that have been more successful in maintaining local traditional varieties, they spend the first year gathering a group of seed savers, having some seed saving classes, having seed swaps, doing things that find the seed savers who already exist in your communities. And where you don't have very many, creating them by giving them that skill of seed saving and having some events like little seed savers lunches and stuff like that to encourage people throughout the season. And while you're interacting, you're talking about what kind of varieties do people do well with here? What kinds of things are traditional? Like if you're in the Carolinas, cabbage collards are very traditional, but they're not, for when I first started selling seeds, they weren't available hardly anywhere to buy online. You had to get them through some exchange network. Now a few are available, but still, there's lots of people who are growing them and who have varieties that are not available commercial, but that are good for your local area. So, get that, get a way to have those classes repeat themselves. Some people start something like a little seed festival. When I lived up in Canada, we had Seedy Saturdays, and they would be in February through April, different areas, and you'd have a seed swap and a bunch of classes, and chefs doing demonstrations of what to do with late winter food and that sort of thing. So do those kinds of things that get people excited, not just about getting a few seeds, but about growing them and about using recipes local to your community.
Great. All right. Our next question is, how do we know which seeds can be saved and will grow true?
Well, one reason we suggest starting with heirloom seeds is if you're getting heirloom seeds and they're either from a known seed saver that you know them and you know they grow the same thing every year and it comes out true, or you get it from a reputable seed company, or you might join one of the online groups like Seed Savers Exchange has an online exchange between members, and there are various other groups like that, so that you know what you got to begin with. That's one thing. Make sure you don't try to save seeds from heirlooms unless you want to be involved. I mean, from, oh my God, from hybrids, unless you want to be involved in a long-term breeding project to get something that's stable. Because the way that these hybrids are made is you take two distinct lines that are maintained proprietarily by a company and cross them, and you get a very uniform product. But generally speaking, the children are much varied and not so like the parents. You might see this with Sungold, which is, you know, an orange tomato that people love, and you save seeds from it and they're all over the place, different colors, different heights. I guess it was a very complex cross. So open pollinated, that is a seed that is selected and bred to come true to itself. And newer open pollinated varieties still have that 5 or 6 years of selection to get a relatively uniform variety. But you can always start with heirlooms that, as I say, you get from trusted companies or from trusted gardeners.
Great, thank you for that advice. All right, our next question says, is there still an effort to maintain seed saving at Clemson since Dr. Bradshaw retired?
Yes, there is. I haven't been there in a couple of years, but I was there, yeah, maybe 3 years ago. And it's a student garden-led effort. Not as big and fancy as when Dr. Bradshaw was there, but still impressive enough to be noticed by visitors. And I hope that in these COVID times, it's still possible that they're doing it.
All right, great, thank you. We also had a question about, is there a contact for the farmer specializing in African heritage foods?
Yes, I could give you his contact. Maybe I'll make a list of additional resources that you can share with people afterwards.
That would be fantastic, thank you.
Yeah.
The next question is, what is leather breeches?
Oh, leather breeches. Well, they are pole beans. Generally, they're dried beans, traditionally from pole beans that have a characteristic of the bean itself staying crisp and tender while the seed has quite gotten large in the pod. And what they would do is harvest them at that stage and string them up on a string across and hang them up. And traditionally, people hung them in the attic until they dried, and then they put them in a jar, and then you'd use it to make soup. Or if you wanted to try to have something fancy, that, you know, green bean casserole, the traditional way of doing it out of leather britches is to rehydrate the beans overnight and then cook it in a creamy sauce with some chopped onions on top. Nothing out of the can there.
It sounds like some good goals some people have for this fall. See if they can make that version of green bean casserole. All right, our next question is asking you for a link to sign up for Twitty's talk that you mentioned that's coming up.
I will give all the links to the 5 talks of Collard Week as a part of the follow-up.
Great, thank you.
Lauren's gonna send everything to people.
Yes. All right, and our next one is, what can someone who wants to learn from you do to sit at your feet? So how can someone learn more from you?
Well, during these COVID times, that's a little bit of a challenge, except virtually. You know, because I have had health challenges where I'm a little, and I'm 72. So I'm not, you know, we're maintaining ourselves in quarantine on the farm. But someday, when that's not true, I used to do lots of workshops and classes, and we have some number of interns that would come and work with us in the summer. But for a while, that's probably not happening. Alas and alack.
Unfortunately. All right, our next question is, how do you preserve seeds in winter at home?
Well, the first thing for preserving seeds is to dry them dry enough. They need, most seeds need to be 15% or less moisture, but not too much less. Like if you get much below 8% moisture, then you can induce a dormancy that's hard to break. So this is what I learned from my grandma. You take your seeds and you dry them until they look dry. And then you dry them another week. And then you put them in a mason jar and you put a piece of nice new paper in there with it. If the paper is still reasonably crisp in the morning, your seeds are dry enough. If it's not, put it on the screen and dry it some more. So, and there are other, you know, more complicated ways, but for everydayness that works. Some other people take and put, fill a jar half full with dried powdered milk, and then they put the envelopes of seed that they think are dry enough on top of that, and that will suck out excessive moisture too, because it's about 10% moisture in dry milk powder. So those are my layperson's way.
That's great. We've got some related questions. We've got some different questions about specific seeds, but the general question is the best method that you found for separating the seeds from the gooey matter. So like tomato seeds, okra, cucumber, squash, how do you get them clean for saving?
Generally speaking, with wet seed type things, you do a short fermentation. And sometimes that's like 12 hours. So you smush them up and put no more than 25% water in with it. You make sure the liquidy, that the gooey liquidy part is covering the whole thing. The more mature seeds are heavier, so they tend to drop to the bottom And honestly, if you're just saving seeds for yourself, rather than trying to get enough to share, usually there are enough that have just dropped to the bottom like that, that you could run water on them right after you smush them and get the seeds out. But if you want to get more of the seeds, take, for most things, for cucumbers and eggplants, because they sometimes will up and sprout on you after one day. So I only do an overnight fermentation on those. But tomatoes, for example, are better if you do them 2 to 4 days, according to whether it's cool or hot. And I grew up being told that reduced the amount of fungal diseases that would be transmitted. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it does clean them up better, and having less plant material on the seed makes them less susceptible, because that dried material will soak up moisture and encourage fungal growth. So I guess it's true in a way, but not in the direct way that I believed before I got a lot of science thrown my way. So I think that's a number one way to get the seeds to float to the bottom, to drop to the bottom, and the other material. And the way you wash them is like you're pouring beer or some other carbonated thing, where you put the water in slowly along the side of your jar or bucket, and that floats the things that are floating out and leaves the heavy things down at the bottom. And then you put them on a screen and wash them. So that's what I do.
Excellent, thank you for that. And another question about techniques. Are there any tips regarding storage, drying, or optimum temperature for saving seeds? And should seeds be dipped in a mild bleach solution or something more organic to ensure optimum germination?
Well, that's a few questions together. Okay, let's think. Many people dip their tomato seeds in a 10% chlorine bleach solution, and then let them sit for about, well, they actually let them sit for about 20 minutes, and then they rinse them, and then they dry them. And you do this right after you get them out of the ferment while they're still wet. You don't like let them dry and then go back and do this thing. With organics, if you do that, you have to actually get tests from time to time to show that the amount of time of rinsing that you have has left only a virtually undetectable amount of bleach left on it. People use this oxidate, which is some kind of oxygen bleach-like substance that I haven't used, but it's approved for organics if they want to. What we do is generally we don't treat in those ways, but we pay attention to when you're harvesting, to try not to harvest from diseased plants, and then process your seeds quickly and get them below 15% moisture, or I say 10% would be great if you get it, but somewhere between 10 and 15%. And then store them cool and dry. And the rule of thumb is that the humidity and the temperature added together should be 100 or lower. So like if it's, you know, if you're in the South where the humidity is high, you need to stick them someplace cool. Preferably try to put them in a condition where both the humidity and the temperature are somewhat controlled. This is why some people freeze their seeds for long-term storage. Other people have a refrigerator where they keep their seeds in. But you don't have to have, you know, you can, Kew Gardens says that the best everyday container for saving seeds in is mason jars with a good fitting lid. And so what a lot of people who are home gardeners I know do is they'll have like 8 or 10 envelopes in the same mason jar, well labeled and so forth, and keep them somewhere refrigerated. But lots of people, they find the coolest, driest location in their home and keep it there. And because most seeds will keep in those conditions for 3 years. Things like tomatoes, you know, often people will have them in an area like a barn if it's well ventilated and downstairs in the cooler part rather than upstairs where it's hot. They'll keep 5 years or more in that kind of condition. Whereas other, you know, lettuce, some certain, you know, dill, something, they might not like it. And so if you're not keeping them in a cool, dry place for real, you need to grow seed every year.
Thank you for all that great information. We have a question about flowers. Are there seed savers for flowers too? What about our native flowers?
Indeed, there are seed savers for flowers. Some flower seed savers are more than seed savers. You know, they are the flower breeders and the ones who are selecting out the more unusual variants of the native flowers, and they're hardcore. And their organizations, you know, for different families of seeds. Here is where the internet continues to be your friend. So you can find people interested in saving the kind of seeds you are. And the Seed Savers Exchange yearbook has herbs and flowers as well as just vegetables. Yes. And I'll try to put you a couple of flower resources on this list. Boy, I need to do my homework tonight.
I've got lots of good questions for you. We are running out of time, so we only have time for a couple more questions. Let's see, we've got, can you speak about the positive environmental impacts of growing heirloom vegetable varieties?
Well, many heirloom varieties, you know, have a lot of flowers, which is good. And those varieties often are blooming over a longer period of time. And especially if you want to help your, you know, native pollinators and other insects, is to have food sources and habitat sources over the longest period of time really makes a big difference. So, you know, those late beans that I was talking about, October beans, those kinds of things make a big difference for your native creatures.
Great. I think we have time for at least one more question. How do you know a variety from a hybrid?
To start out with, did I say trusted source? Back to the trusted source. You can't tell by looking. It's not going to happen. You can't tell by growing it that first generation. It's the next generation where you're going to see the variation that comes in a hybrid. So generally speaking, save yourself a lot of trouble and get seed from a trusted source or from a trusted individual, one or the other. Is that it?
All right, let's see. We've got some different people that have said hi to you, that have same connections as you. And we've got just a couple minutes. Looking to see what else we've got. Someone asked, does the Collard Shack in Ayden, North Carolina sell mail order collard seeds for beginning gardeners?
They do not sell by mail. As a matter of fact, when we first ran into them, we were trying to tell them they should do this. And they said, that's not what we do. So you have to go there and get your plants or your seeds. But here's a good thing. We offer at Southern Exposure at least 4 varieties. Well, at least the henpeck and the yellow cabbage collard. And then we offered at least 2 more this year, North Carolina heirloom varieties. So that might, and we got our original seed from the Collard Shack. So.
Excellent. Excellent. And I think we can slip in this one more question. Do you know the best way to save Egyptian walking onion bulbs?
In the ground.
In the ground.
Well, seriously speaking, you know, Egyptian walking onions are a perennial onion, and they have like this big old stalk, and then on the top are like little baby bulbils, and when the bulbils get big enough, it makes the stalk fall over on the ground, and then they start rooting and making another plant. And so generally at home, gathering those up and planting them where you want to sometime within 3 months of when they formed is a good thing. I mean, they'll hang around because we sometimes accidentally have them find them some unusual place 6 months later. But generally speaking, you know, they're living things, so they're not actually true seeds. So you want to replant them sometime that summer or fall or early winter when they were formed. Yes.
All right, and I'm going to hand things back over to Joanna to wrap things up.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren, for moderating, and thank you, Ira. We are so glad to have you with us today, and we appreciate you taking the time to visit and share with us and our audience. We're so happy to have reconnected, and I hope to see you here at the garden one day. I want to thank you to our audience for joining us today and for your thoughtful questions. And though we're not able to do our traditional book signing or our traditional reception afterwards here at the garden, please know that our garden gates are open to visitors. We do hope you'll visit us soon, or if you have not done so already. Join us on social media if you're not nearby. We have lots of opportunities for you to connect that way. And please consider becoming a member if you're not already. So as I mentioned earlier, we're working on putting the garden shop online by November 5th and plan to have Ira's 2 Southern related or Southeastern and North Carolina related books available there. And the first 30 of each book will be signed by Ira with a book plate. So watch for that soon. We'll send that out in an email. And Ira, thank you. I have so many of my own notes from what you shared today. And my best to you, yours, and those of the audiences through the coming days. I look forward to seeing all of you at the garden or in future garden programs. So thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Thank you so much for having me here. It has been a delight, and I look forward to an opportunity to visit the gardens again.
Wonderful. It was our pleasure.